everybody, and welcome to the Creative Corner. We're on location in Tamborine in Queensland today. It is so cool, and we're talking hostage. That's right, we've got this new fiction novel that's just come out, and joining me is Jarvis-Jackson. Hey Carol, how you doing?
Hi Aishan, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for welcoming me into your home.
You're welcome, thank you for coming.
Tell us who you are. Tell us a bit about you. Let's set the scene.
Who am I? Well, I've always been a writer. I've always been creative. When I was a kid, I was always writing, singing, dancing. I either wanted to be a writer or a singer when I grew up, or a choreographer for Jarvis-Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of my goals. And I always have been a book lover. Both my mum and my nana and my auntie introduced me to reading when I was young, so I've always had books around. Always had my nose in a book, as my mum used to say when I was a kid. And when I was probably about 9, 10, something like that, I just started writing my own stories, and I'd write little short stories and descriptive pieces. So it was always happening. I always wanted to reach out there. When I got into my teens, I was doing novels, so I started writing novels then.
Wow.
A couple of friends read them, but I was very shy as a teenager. People don't believe that now, but I used to be very shy, and I wasn't confident about sharing them. Always had the goal though. Just kept on working. I was working in retail for many years. I moved to Canada in 2001, and while I was over there, I was part of a writing group, and I was just getting more confident at my writing, kind of finalising my craft, getting better at it, working on stories still, doing second drafts and starting new ones, kind of a little bit of fiddle with this one. And just kept on going, always had the dream, determined that when I came home, I was going to study either writing or photography, because they were my two passions. Came home, life happens, you've got to pay the bills,
Sure.
Don't have a fairy godmother. So I had to work, but eventually I ended up studying photography. So you've got that passion achieved. Just always wanted to do it. I was always writing, but I never really shared it with everyone. It was just my own thing. But in 2020, COVID happened, but, I had a lot of big things happening for myself. I lost both my mum and my husband. They both got sick. They both had cancer. They passed away 5 months apart. While they were sick, I was watching them trying to achieve things they wanted to do in their life, were ticking their bucket list things off. And I was like, I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to be where if something happens to me, I'm going to live and have regrets and regret that I didn't follow my dreams and do things I wanted. So I was like, you know what? Bugger this, I'm doing it. I'm finishing my book. So, I worked on stuff while I was looking after my husband. I finished off everything, and then, just decided, life's too short. You've got to go out there and make your dreams happen and do what you want. So now here I am. I'm a writer.
Wow, that is really inspirational, number one. That, you've used that incredibly difficult set of circumstances in a small amount of time to find your drive to achieve these sort of creative goals, because look, a lot of people in life they just don't at all. Yeah. And despite those sort of hurdles and challenges come. So I find that incredibly inspirational. But also you mentioned how you were honing your craft in Canada, and I think that's a really good message for people that are watching this, is that, when you commit to writing fiction, it's not just you just turn on the switch one day and you can do it. It's something that you're constantly working at for years and years and years and years.
Yes.
And being able to go to writers groups and obviously write as many drafts as you can and new stories as you can is a great way of being able to exercise that talent and that skill. Tell me about the story. What is Hostage about?
Okay, so it's about a woman named Rachel. She's lives in Brisbane, works in PR. She thinks her life's on track, it's going good. Then one night she goes out for dinner with her boyfriend. Big changes kind of happen with there. And then on the way home, she inadvertently stumbles across an armed robbery gone bad. And there's 3 armed robbers that are holding up a service station. And then the next minute she's finding herself in the back of the car. So she's being held hostage by these guys as they start going on a crime spree across Australia. And so she's trying to fight to get away from them, and while she's doing that, she's making discoveries about her own life and even about these guys. And then the story as it evolves, she's learning who she really is and learning who these people really are, and it just kind of tells the story of who someone is when you first meet them isn't necessarily who they are as you dig a little bit deeper and you take that time to actually pay attention and get to know them. There could be something in there that you don't know is there, and something in yourself as well. So that's what Rachel's doing. She's discovering who she really is and discovering a lot about these guys and a lot about Australia.
Not something you'd expect in a novel like that when it kicks off in that sort of storyline. you're kind of thinking it's going to go a certain way, but it sounds like it's a story of self-discovery.
Yes, pretty much. It is definitely a story of self-discovery with lots of twists and turns and shocks and adventure thrown in along the way.
Where did that idea come from? How did that develop?
The idea itself actually kind of just came to me one night. I think I may have been lying in bed at the time. Might have been in the shower. Those were the two ideas always come to me.
You thought of a book called Hostage.
Strange
Tell
things
me
you
more.
do, yeah. So I wasn't sure about the name at the first, but I knew what the concept was. I wanted, this story to be about, a woman who was taken hostage. So the idea came to me, and then just as it evolved, I wanted it to be deeper than just the story of her taken hostage. I wanted it to have some meaning and purpose. And when I was doing the final draft, I incorporated how I felt in 2020 and what I went through, and made it about, making your life have purpose and have meaning. And the character has that realisation when she's writing. When she's in the book, when she's in that situation. So, she has that same thing happen to her. So I just incorporated that into it. But the idea itself, it didn't come from any particular thing like other stories I've had. Was just the random idea came, and I made notes and went from there.
So when you look at everything that you've been writing over the years, why was it this story that you wanted to bring to life?
Because of the connection to Mum and Jacko. Okay. Because they both watched me finish it. When my mum went into palliative care, the day the ambulance came to pick her up, I had one paragraph left of the book. Wow. I had to actually pack it away, and I went in the ambulance with her. So when I came home that night, I finished it. I wanted to get that finished. I wanted to say, Mum, I did it, it's finished. And I did the dedication to her, and I printed off the dedication in the first chapter and showed it to her. So she knew that's what I was doing. And then it was the same thing when Jacko was sick. I said to him, I am publishing next year. It took more than 12 months, unfortunately, but I said to him, I'm publishing this book. So it's that emotional connection to the two of them, because they knew that that's what I was working on, and I wanted to do it for them, basically.
That's massive. I mean, you hear these kind of stories behind, self-help books and mind, body, spirit, or personal development. I don't really hear them often around fiction stories. So great to hear that connection and value towards why you've decided to write this story and bring it to life has happened in a novel. It's so good. What did you learn about writing this?
That even though I thought the story was done, it was not done.
Oh, really?
How I finished it, it finished the same way, but as I went through, I realised that the characters needed more depth, the story needed more depth, and that was when I incorporated my own experiences and feelings into it. And I had the character go from just, she's okay, she's a person, to, okay, this person has a lot more depth, and the other characters, you see a lot more of them. So I learnt that the characters need to be real people. You need to have the depth and
three-dimensional.
Yes, exactly. They've got to be three-dimensional. Yeah, they were a little bit too flat before that. So
that's a good thing to learn. What about publishing? What did you learn about that process?
It's definitely a lot more work than I thought it was. Yes, it is. Yeah. But it's been amazing. I've always had, when I did my photography, there's my two favourite lecturers that taught me. There's the two most important things I took away from them. One of them was don't murder pixels. He's the lecturer that taught me Photoshop and how to do the editing. And his thing was always, you do a backup copy, you don't murder your pixels. And even now when I see him, he goes, do you murder pixels? I'm like, oh no, I don't. And the other one, she taught me about the whole business side of it and everything. And her lesson was know your worth. And that is always the thing. So I don't murder pixels. I know my worth.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So with the publishing, when I'm going through, and even with what I'm continuing to write now, I'm hearing the notes of the editors as they, with the feedback they gave me during all the editing processes of, to how to do the structure of the book, to how to lay it out. So I learned so much, even just about how the book has to be laid out, and don't just describe the scene in front of you, make the person feel like they're there in the scene, make it so they're immersed completely into the book. So
that's so good. I mean, the editorial process can sometimes be rather tedious and it goes on for some time, but I mean, the focus is to be able to bring the best out of the story, and it sounds like that was something that occurred for you when you were editing.
Yeah, definitely. The story evolved and became a lot better than what it was.
Excellent. Who's it aimed at? Who's the target market?
Well, it's kind of primarily women, anywhere from in their 20s, the main characters in their mid-20s, up to my age group. So, women in their 20s, 30s, 40s. But I've got men reading it as well, and they're loving it as well. So it's really just anyone that wants a bit of escapism and just, escape from their life, and a bit of action, a bit of adventure, and a bit of a thrill, and definitely that kind of in the middle.
Well, I noticed at the launch there was a lot of diversity in the people that were there, and lots of good things were said. What's the feedback you've had since it's been out?
It's actually been really good. I was very nervous about putting my baby out there.
Every author is.
Oh yeah, 100%. On the day, I was just like, oh, I'm shaking. It's happening, but it's been great. People have been putting posts on Facebook. They've been sending me messages. I've been loving them. I did a sneak peek of my next thing with people. They're loving that. They're wanting to know what's going on. But yeah, it's coming back. People are like, okay, is there going to be a second book to this?
Nice.
To this one? Is there going to be a sequel? I want to know what happens. And people that are reading it, they're like, I'm just trying to get through this book and I don't have enough hours in my day.
And what are you saying to them when they're asking you if there's going to be a sequel?
I'm saying that it's a very strong possibility. My stepdaughter, who's actually my cover model, her and I sat down and had a discussion about it one day, and she's come up with all these ideas.
Really?
So if I go with her ideas, I've got to give her credit for that. But yeah, there's a big, strong possibility that there could be a second book to it.
I'm looking forward to that. Well, that was my next question, which is what's next for you as a writer? And it's really good to hear, even before, when we were off camera, you were talking about that you're still continuing to write, and that's just so important, especially when you're in the marketing space, that you don't lose sight of that need for creative expression.
Yeah.
So what is next for you as a writer? If it's not the sequel, what are you writing at the moment?
Yeah, no, it's not the sequel yet. I haven't started that one.
No.
I'm kind of deep in another series that I'm writing. So it's another thriller.
Okay.
It's funny, thriller is a completely different genre to me. I had written a love story, and both two stories I'd written were kind of love stories, but then I went into this thriller one. I think I've found my niche. But so this next one is a thriller, and it's again about an Australian woman, but she's actually living in America. So it's going to be a series that could definitely have a lot of books. The first book is all ready to go, and I'm actually 3/4 of the way through the second book of that series. So,
wow.
Yeah, so that series, the first one will be coming out, fingers crossed, next year.
That sounds good. I'm guessing there's going to be a bit of Vegas in there.
No, Boston.
Oh, really?
Boston, yes, my other love, my other city, Boston.
Right.
Yeah, for my Boston boys.
Nice, I like it. Well, before we sign off, I want you to find a part of that book that you'd like to read out to the audience today, and share a bit of Hostage for everybody.
Okay, I will. All right, so I'm going to read a bit of the first chapter where Rachel, the character, is actually taken hostage. Why did you have to kill him? I started punching him with both fists until the other man grabbed both of my arms and pulled them behind my back. As soon as I was being held again, Robbie wiped his mouth, which I could see was bleeding from behind his balaclava, and then pulled his hand back and slapped me. He picked the gun up from the floor, where I hadn't noticed it lying at his feet, and aimed it at me. Do that again, and they'll be finding your body on the side of the freeway, he warned between clenched teeth. You killed Adam, I yelled at him, not paying attention to his threat on my own life, as I pictured Adam being hit by the bullet and dying back there. He moved the gun higher, so it was aimed at my neck, and glared at me for a moment. I stared back, not wanting to show him how terrified I was. Finally, he spoke. I didn't kill your boyfriend. I only shot him in the arm. He moved the gun away from my neck. Hold her tight, he told the guy who had my arms, and you drive faster, he said to the one behind the wheel.
Okay, well, that sets the scene. That's very, very exciting. Carol, I want to thank you so much for welcoming us into your home today.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. And for you guys, you want to go and check out the link at the bottom of the screen to see more about where the story is going to take you in Hostage. And keep an eye out for the audiobook too. That's coming out soon. We'll see you next time on The Creative Corner.